Alright. I want to try and get through this as quickly as possible, but you might have to bear with me just a little bit. So I don't have a background in law or anything like that. I've been looking through this to satisfy my own curiosity, just to see what it means for Victorians. This is the COVID-19 Omnibus Emergency Measures and Other Acts Amendment Bill 2020. Specifically, I've been looking at Division 2, Emergency Powers Measures. Here it is here. Secretary may appoint authorised officers, and what this all means. So what they're trying to slip in is subsection 1A, right? But to understand that properly, we really need to understand what section 30, subsection 1 is all about. And that's a part of the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008. Now, subsection 1 reads, the Secretary by instrument may appoint a person employed under Part 3 of the Public Administration Act 2004 to be an authorised officer for the purposes of this Act. So let's first of all try and understand who the Secretary is. Secretary means the department head within the meaning of the Public Administration Act 2004 of the department. Department means the Department of Health and Human Services. Right? So the Secretary is the head of the Department of Health and Human Services. And that, according to the Victoria State Government Health and Human Services website, is Secretary Kim Peake. So the Secretary is directly responsible for management of the Department of Health and Human Services. Kim commenced as Secretary of the Victorian Department of Health and Human Services in November 2015. Find out more about Kim on the Our Secretary page. So we can go there, still Victoria State Government. The Secretary leads our Executive Board and is responsible for setting strategic direction and management of the department. Kim Peake. Kim brings extensive experience in both state and Commonwealth government to the department. Okay, so that's who the Secretary is. So next, it's saying the Secretary by instrument may appoint a person. So what's a person? Person includes a body or association, corporate or unincorporate, and a partnership. And in Division 2 of Part 7 also includes a firm. So that's a person. So after this, we've established who the Secretary is and what a person is. This is where the Secretary is limited in who they can appoint. So who they can appoint is limited to people who are employed under, persons who are employed under Part 3 of the Public Administration Act 2004 to be an authorised officer for the purposes of this Act. So that Part 3 is part of the Public Administration Act 2004. So that's public service employment. So when you look at that, some of these definitions, employee means a person employed under Part 3 in any capacity and includes a public service body head. So public service body means a department, administrative office, or the Victorian Public Sector Commission, which is covered by Part 4. Right, so it doesn't actually fall under Part 3, but the Commissioner of the Victorian Public Sector is considered a public sector body head. What's the definition again? Yeah, public service body head. Right, so even though he's not technically covered under Part 3, he is. So the Commissioner could be another person who could be appointed as an authorised officer. And in regards to what an authorised officer is or what their powers are, I can't say with any certainty. I haven't actually looked into it too specifically. I mean, according to the Act, it says authorised officer means a person appointed by a council, A, to be an environmental health officer under Section 29, or B, by the Secretary to be an authorised officer under Section 30, or C, subject to Section 31, by a council under Section 224, subsection 1 of the Local Government Act 1989, to be an authorised officer for the purposes of this Act. As to what their powers are, you can sort of assume it from the next part of this omnibus. So a designated authorised officer may detain a person. So right there it indicates they have the power of detention. And that applies if a direction has been given in the exercise of emergency power. So they have the power of direction, clearly. They can give a direction and they can detain people. So it seems as though they've been given, these authorised officers have reasonable powers. something similar to what a police officer would have, perhaps not the same. I doubt it would be the same, but some powers. So now that we understand the fact that these authorised officers will have these powers, and that under section 30 subsection 1 that pool is at least limited to public service employees, well, not anymore. Once you insert subsection 1a, it now reads, in addition to the persons, which again, remember, is a body or association, corporate or unincorporated, and a partnership, right? So persons who may be appointed under subsection 1, the Secretary by instrument may appoint any of the following to be an authorised officer for the purposes of this Act. A person the Secretary considers appropriate for appointment based on the person's skills, attributes, experience, or otherwise. Or B, a person included in a prescribed class of person. Now, I don't know what those prescribed classes of people are. That's a good question. And as for the fact that effectively anything that's considered to be an appropriate partnership, association, or body is acceptable to be appointed by the Secretary, head of the Department of Health and Human Services, as an authorised officer with these powers. Why? Why do these powers need to be outsourced to groups, partnerships, bodies, associations beyond the public service? And for what purpose? It's a good question. What does this really mean? I mean, it's only stage 3 in regional Victoria now. Infection rates seem to be declining. Death rate seems to be declining. What is the need to be able to appoint these bodies, these associations, these partnerships as authorised officers to be able to conduct activities in relation to restrictions that are deemed appropriate or necessary in order to protect the public health? I don't quite understand why it's needed. It seems completely unnecessary. I don't mean to be alarmist or anything like that, but these further changes here would indicate that it's possible to detain people. The designated authorised officer reasonably believes that a person who is required to comply with the direction is a high-risk person within the meaning of subsection 2, which pertains to people who have been infected or have come into close contact with people who have been infected. But this part here indicates that a person can be detained if they're not considered high risk, but is likely to refuse or fail to comply with the direction. So, failing to comply with the direction is tantamount, it's not tantamount to being considered a high-risk person, but you'll be treated the same in the interest of public health, supposedly. Doesn't look good. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe I've completely misinterpreted this. Someone prove me wrong, please. I'd appreciate it. I hope I'm not right.